Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into something called the authority trap. Have you ever wondered why hiring help sometimes feels like it's actually suffocating your business growth instead of scaling it? Well, we're going to deconstruct the illusion of task delegation. We're looking at a super fascinating concept based on insights from transformational consultant Lisa Murphy. She argues, and this is absolutely key, that handing something off is not the same thing as letting go of it.
To really get a grip on this, let's look at a story that might hit a little too close to home for some of us. Meet Sarah. She runs a 12-person marketing agency, and honestly, she was drowning. Client work, people management, vendor relationships, proposal deadlines, it was all flowing directly through her. She built something amazing, but it completely owned her. So she did exactly what successful, overwhelmed people do, right? She hired Marcus. Marcus is his highly competent, detail-oriented operations manager. Sarah expected free time, sure, but more importantly, she wanted Marcus to expand the agency's capacity so they could finally scale. She thought, okay, this is the fix. But 8 months into Marcus's tenure, Sarah's burden hadn't vanished. It had literally just migrated from her own to-do list straight into her inbox. Here's what Sarah's daily reality actually looked like. Every single morning, like absolute clockwork, at 6:47 a.m., Marcus would shoot over a summary email. It detailed everything that happened yesterday, what was on today's agenda, and, here's the kicker, a list of what needed Sarah's sign-off before he could move forward. So Sarah would read it, approve the decisions, and send it back so Marcus could actually do his job. The tasks were off her plate, sure, but the mental load? Exactly the same. Because everything still flowed through her morning inbox, the agency's growth hit a hard, concrete ceiling based entirely on how fast Sarah could read and reply to her emails. She had literally become her own company's biggest bottleneck.
Now, what's really interesting here is the behavioral shift that happened over time. Marcus, this proactive, fantastic hire, just stopped suggesting anything risky. He stopped proposing new experiments. He never pushed back on broken processes. He just sent his summaries and waited. Why? Well, somewhere in those first couple of months, Marcus learned a very specific lesson. Moving without Sarah's sign-off created problems. Whether she second-guessed a call or just told him to check in first next time, it doesn't even matter. He learned the pattern: approval before action.
And that brings us to the core concept we're unpacking today, the authority trap. See, Sarah had successfully delegated the tasks, but she kept the authority. The authority trap happens when you hand over the physical labor of a project, but you retain the final say on all the choices. And the absolute, undeniable truth of leadership is this: the very moment you keep the authority, your delegate stops owning the outcomes. You're no longer cultivating a leader, you are programming a very expensive robot. And when you do that, your business can only grow as large as your own personal bandwidth.
But hey, don't just take my word for it. Let's see how the experts view this dynamic. Michael Watkins, the brilliant author of The First 90 Days, hits the nail on the head. He says, delegation is not just handing off tasks, it's handing off decisions. If the decision maker still needs to approve every call, you don't have delegation, you have a messenger with extra steps. Just think about how much time gets wasted playing a giant game of telephone between the person doing the work and the person who actually holds the power.
This blind spot is also totally echoed by Kim Scott, the author of Radical Candor. She points out that the most common delegation failure actually isn't selecting the wrong person for the job. It's the leader who simply cannot let go of the decision-making authority. When that happens, as she says, the team member feels the weight of the boss is watching and stops thinking like an owner. They basically just trade their ingenuity for compliance. And to wrap up this expert validation, we have Daniel Pink, author of Drive. He reveals the psychology behind why someone like Marcus just stops trying. He says, people don't disengage from a task because it's hard, they disengage when the decision-making power stays with someone else. Pink is emphasizing that autonomy is absolutely non-negotiable for accountability. If you want your people to be accountable for results, they must have the autonomy to make the calls. It's the definitive key to unlocking the accountability you desperately need to scale.
So, the crucial point is really understanding this stark contrast. You haven't actually delegated until the person you handed the work to can make decisions about it without checking with you first. There is a massive, massive difference between saying, here is what I need to happen, and I want a weekly update on how it's going, versus saying, here is what I need to happen, and I need to approve every step before you take it. Delegating decisions creates true ownership. Delegating only tasks, that just creates pure, unadulterated dependency.
Okay, so how do we get out of this? How do we stop being the single point of failure in our own organizations? To solve this, we're turning to Lisa Murphy's framework. She's an executive coach and transformational consultant who has spent over 15 years working with hundreds of founders. She specializes in helping them build the teams and structures that make the founders themselves entirely optional. Because making yourself optional is literally the only way a company can achieve unhindered massive growth. She's developed a really specific escape strategy for this exact trap.
Murphy lays out 3 concrete steps to actually let go of the vine. 1. Write down decisions. 2. Set the frame. And 3. Change the feedback loop. Master these 3 steps, and you transition from being a bottlenecking micromanager to a true director of growth.
Let's dive right into this. Step 1. Write down the decisions that matter. Now listen closely here, not the tasks, the decisions. You need to be brutally honest and highly specific about where your authority really needs to stay. Are you truly the only one who can handle hiring, or pricing, vendor selection, timeline changes? Write those actual decisions down. Then look at literally everything else on your plate and ask yourself, does this actually need my approval, or am I just asking for it out of habit? You have to systematically delegate the decisions that don't absolutely require your unique authority.
And this brilliantly illustrates step 2, setting the frame, not the steps. You need to tell your team the outcome you need, and you have to give them the constraints, things like budget, timeline, client expectations. But then you have got to stop telling them how to get there. Let's go back to Sarah and Marcus for a second. Marcus doesn't need Sarah to approve every single vendor call. He just needs to know that vendor relationships are a priority and that he has a budget of X amount to solve problems. The actual steps to get that done, those are entirely his to figure out.
Finally, we have step 3, and this is where the real culture shift happens. You have to change your feedback loop. The old loop, the one that traps Sarah, was send me the summary before you decide. The new loop, the one that actually creates leaders, is decide, then tell me what you decided and why. Now, will you catch an occasional miss? Yes, absolutely. Will the world end? Probably not. The trade-off is incredible, though. Your team will finally stop waiting for your permission before they are willing to critically think.
Ultimately, the bottom line is this: delegation only works when the person you handed the project to actually owns it. And as we've seen today, you cannot possibly own something when you constantly need someone else's approval to make a move. You have to clarify the authority, let your people decide, and then simply trust them to execute. So I want to leave you with a final provocative test. Think back. Name a single decision your team made last week without texting you, emailing you, or slacking you first. Really think about it for a second. If you can't name a single one, well, I have some tough news for you. You aren't actually delegating. You're just offloading tasks to someone else's to-do list while carrying 100% of the anxiety. It is time to let go of the authority and watch your team and your growth truly soar.